to ensure that you take away the mission of the Alamo Colleges, which is to empower our diverse communities for success. And with that in mind, we are so excited to have Dr. Flores, Chancellor of the Alamo Colleges, presenting his Moonshot Milestones, which I think he's getting closer to the moon than any of us had expected. And so we're excited about that, addressing and highlighting the progress that has been made towards these institutional goals in his first 5 years of tenure, as well as looking forward to what's to come. Later in the program, Dr. Flores will be joined by Dr. Harrison Keller, Commissioner of Higher Education, for a fireside chat on the joint efforts of expanding our Texas talent pipeline. And if you monitor legislative issues at the state level, a lot of great momentum has been taking place in support specifically of community colleges. But now, to kick us off, I'd like to welcome San Antonio Business Journal President and CEO Jimmy Holmes to the podium. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Romanita. Good afternoon, everyone. It is my honor to be here today on behalf of the San Antonio Business Journal. Creating community connections is what the Business Journal does best, and is why we're all here today as we celebrate the impact of the Alamo Colleges and Chancellor Flores' 5-year tenure. That's what makes us a proud partner of the Alamo Colleges. I would like to congratulate Chancellor Flores for his exceptional leadership and lifelong work of advancing equity across San Antonio. I would like to also congratulate Chancellor Flores for his work in partnership with the Business Journal. It was through his leadership in the Alamo Colleges received the San Antonio Business Journal's Business of the Year Award in 2019, the Business Resiliency Award in 2020, and most recently, the San Antonio Business Journal's 2023 Nonprofit Award. All awards that reaffirm the district's focus of empowering students for success. We all know education is a major component of the San Antonio economy, and Chancellor Flores has risen to the challenge of being a collaborative partner to the San Antonio business community. Chancellor Flores' vision, strategy, and dedication not only has transformed the Alamo Colleges, but has also contributed to the prosperity of our region. Congratulations, Chancellor Flores, for being a social responsibility champion for our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy, for that welcome. I love the partnership between education and the business sector. And now please help me welcome Alamo Colleges Board Chair, Roberto Zarate, who represents District 5 and has served on the board for almost 2 decades. It's true public service dedication. Thank you, Chairman Zarate.
That's a great picture of me, I think. Good morning, everyone. I am privileged to serve on the Board of Trustees of the Alamo Colleges, award-winning Alamo Colleges. One of the things that is customary in these events is for me to introduce the board. But before I introduce the board members that are here, I want you to know that we're a team, and that team has sustained us over the years. I've served 21 years. I'd like to say better than 2 decades because that really is a long time. But this board has worked real hard to work as a team, to stay focused on sustainability and the ability to react and respond to our community needs. And I'm proud to present the board members that are here. Our secretary, Dr. Pulido, if you'll please stand. And everybody knows this next guy, Joe Alderete. Would you please rise? We as a board have been also allied with many of our community members, but there's no one more of an advocate than the one I consider him a personal friend, our Senator Jose Menendez. A while back, about 15 years ago, we had another chancellor other than Dr. Flores, and he made us read a book. It's called Good to Great. I think all of you have read it to some degree. We're good. We're good. We're real good. We've gotten awards nationally. We have sustained a national posture. We just got back from Washington, D.C. Everybody's looking at us for leadership, and we're providing it. Dr. Flores and I are on a committee for Achieving the Dream and the ACCT. But the point is, you always try to strive for great. Even though you're good and you're doing great things, good things, you've got to strive for great. And that's one of the things that I really appreciate about our board members, that they want to move forward regardless of how good we are. And that continuous improvement is a major issue for us. So I am going to be really excited to hear what Dr. Flores is going to present to you. We have, I believe, a working environment that is going to continue sustaining our community for many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Sarat. And I would add that what makes Alamo Colleges more than great are its phenomenal students. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Karen Morin Lugo, an Alamo Promise student from Palo Alto College, to the podium. Karen is an incredible example of how Alamo Promise is setting up students for success, and I know you all will enjoy hearing her story. Welcome, Karen.
Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing? First of all, I want to say thank you to my parents. They're in the room. Say hola, mami. Y papi. Are you guys ready? Hello, I am Karen Morin Lugo, a mass communication student at Palo Alto College and a proud Alamo Promise scholar. I was raised in Monterrey, Nuevo León, and moved to San Antonio when I was in the 8th grade. As a daughter of migrant farm workers, I have learned the importance of hard work and persistence, and always dreamt of pursuing an education. It is because of the Alamo Colleges that I have been able to develop as a leader in my community and my field of study. I am thankful for all the opportunities the Alamo Colleges has offered me, the wraparound services and resources offered at my college. Starting from when I was a dual credit student at Somerset High School to my experiences today, I have been able to develop as a leader in my community and my profession. I hope to continue my education and pursue a doctoral degree, and I know I have the support of my family, my professors, and the Alamo Colleges. Now, I have the distinct honor of welcoming a champion for student success, Dr. Mike Flores, Chancellor of the Alamo Colleges District. Dr. Flores has served in various roles within the Alamo Colleges District for over 20 years, always committed to achieving his goal of partnering to end poverty in San Antonio through education and training. It is his signature program, Alamo Promise, that makes college attainable for graduating high school students in Bexar County and is the most significant educational initiative implemented in our region. Please help me welcome Dr. Mike Flores.
Still, buenos dias, buenos dias. How's everyone today? Awesome, well, great. Let's get in a round of applause. And her parents, I know that her parents have been at a board meeting before, and so it's wonderful to be able to celebrate the success of each one of our students, over 70,000 strong. I want to actually take an opportunity because I'm one of close to 6,000 individuals, faculty and staff that work together to back up Karen and all of her peers at all of our colleges. So I want to ask my colleagues to please stand. Presidents, vice chancellors, folks, would you all please stand so we can give you a round of applause? We're all a team. As Chairman Sarate mentioned, as chair of the board, and we're fortunate to have what I call our team at the top, each of the trustees for their dedication, Chairman Sarate, Mr. Alderete, Secretary Pulido, for all of their efforts and what they've done to propel us further. We're fortunate not only to have local support, but to be able to have partners, as he mentioned, with our partnership with Senator Menendez, and also to be able to have a strong presence in Austin. And we're fortunate to be joined by the Commissioner of Higher Education today. So, Dr. Harrison Keller, would you please stand so we can recognize you? So we're blessed with wonderful local support, but we are one of 50 community colleges within the state of Texas. And I know during the panel after lunch, we'll be able to talk about the historic investment that has been made, but that would not be possible without partnership with the commissioner and, of course, partnership with the senator and his colleagues in the Senate and the House, as well as the governor and lieutenant governor, to be able to move that across the finish line and have a historic investment. So I want to give you a sense of what we've done, who we are, and all of us as San Antonians have pride in what we do and who we serve, and ensuring that individuals can prosper in our community. And then I want to give you a sense, looking at community context, going to where we've been and where we'd like to go. So as we set the stage in particular, I think all of us, and you know, Commissioner, as you travel throughout the state, as Texans, we're all proud. But in particular, as San Antonians, I think we share a specific sense of pride of who we are and what we've done. And so we see these headlines every single day, the wonderful things that talk about an economy that's growing, that creates prosperity, right? Increased jobs, more folks moving to our community, right? Current residents, but also having new residents that want to come to a place that can provide for each and every one of their families. But one of the other things that we are mindful of is that San Antonio is still challenged. That to compete in a global economy is to create a credentialed economy. That we can be able to support individuals and students like Gedden who have hopes and aspirations, who are at Palo Alto College, but as she mentioned, hope to go on to graduate and postgraduate school to be able to attain their dreams. So as we look at those proof points, in particular, we see that 1 in 5 of individuals, right, is living in poverty, and we see that close to half of individuals are economically challenged. 23%, as it notes there, have some college but no degree. And individuals could say that that's a challenge, but I think that that 23% is how we address those first 2 proof points. That's actually an opportunity for us at Alamo Colleges in San Antonio and throughout the state of Texas to be able to engage those individuals and to move them forward, because we know if we do that at the Alamo Colleges that there's an ROI for each and every one of our students. We did an economic impact study a couple of years ago, and what it showed is the difference between a high school diploma and an associate's degree or certificate from our Alamo Colleges, all 5, will yield an ROI for the student of over $9,500 and close to $450,000 in their lifetime. That's the difference between struggle to success. That's the difference for those of our colleagues, right, business representatives who are in the financial sector, of being able to move from renting to owning and getting a mortgage, perhaps starting a business, or even saving for their own child's higher education. So $9,400 and close to $500,000 in their lifetime. That's a direct spend that creates economic development and prosperity in our community. Looking at those headlines and those proof points, we arrived 5 years ago. We know what the ROI is, and we know our community, but the Moonshot is about looking at our context, realizing the opportunity that we have as the Alamo Colleges, right? 6,000 employees strong, presence throughout Bexar County and 7 surrounding counties in our service area, to change the trajectory of our community and create more credentialed talent. So our Moonshot is to partner to end poverty through education and training, whether that's a certificate, an associate's degree, and soon workforce-oriented baccalaureate degrees. So who are we? Who are the Alamo Colleges? My colleagues that stood earlier all know who we are pretty much, right? But we want all of you to be allies and champions in that work, to be able to spread the message of who we are, but also to hold us accountable in that. So you can see what it looks like in our presence. The larger squares are each of the 5 colleges, represented by several of my colleagues who are here today and their teams who support our students. And then we have our education and training centers, either existing buildings in partnership with others. Thankfully for the bond, which I'll talk about soon, we've been able to have new builds. So we have a new ETSI, that's an education and training center in the South Side, in partnership with Southside ISD, right across from the Navistar and close to the manufacturing hub that's quickly developing. We have a new ETSI, Northwest ETSI, that's going to develop by Fair Oaks Ranch that will be able to provide training and education to a growing and aspirational community in that area. And then we have over 40 high school partnerships, whether they are early colleges in which an individual wants to graduate with an associate's degree for transfer, or you can see there what we call in our jargon, right, P-Tech high schools. Those are career-focused academies that aim to provide individuals with either industry-based certifications, certificates, or associate's degrees, often in tandem with employers like yourselves here today. I think that's the most important thing, the moonshot. And if we are to be able to address and increase credentialed talent in our community, Alamo Colleges, in partnership with others, is apt and primed to be able to do that. So I mentioned what it looks like in our presence throughout Bexar County, but in talking to others, I think each of us here, perhaps, some partners would be surprised that we have 72,000 students. Yeah, 72,000 students that we served in the fall semester alone, right? Year on year, from fall 22 to fall 23, that was an increase of 9%. The previous year, it was an increase of 9%. Right now, as we look at our spring numbers, we're actually up 10%. 72,000 students. Look at 2 of those, and we have 2 of their presidents, Dr. Bosley, Dr. Gonzalez de Jesus, Northwest Vista and San Antonio College, each at 19,000 students. On their own, those are huge institutions, right? Dr. God says here from Palo Alto College, as we look at 11,000 students, each of those institutions has grown by leaps and bounds over the last few years. You can see what that looks like in comparison, because we work, and I know there are colleagues here from UT San Antonio, right? As we look at our partners, public higher ed partners, just in the scale in what we provide and providing an on-ramp to education and then transferring to either UTSA, and those are our 3 main partners, UTSA, A&M San Antonio, or Texas State. Wanted to mention, as part of those 72,000, we actually had 18,000 students that transferred either to those 3 institutions or other private institutions within our community. So of the 72,000 students, 18,000 students transferred to university. We had a wonderful conversation that was convened by Greater SATX a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about the talent pipeline. I think it's important to underscore that we're not only providing a talent pipeline to employers, we're actually providing a talent and learner pipeline to our public and private university partners. So the other part is, who do we serve? Who are our potential learners? You can see that we resemble and serve the community of San Antonio, Bexar County, and the surrounding region. 2/3 Hispanic, 2/3 female. 2/3 of our students are relying on some form of partnership and financial assistance to be able to pay for their education. One of the things, and I know, Commissioner, as we look at the adults 25 plus, 1/4 of our students are over the age, and actually that's part of House Bill 8 legislation. And then you can see all of the other indicators. And I think what is critical is the context, our community, an aspirational community that is seeking opportunity through credentials that we provide. And you can see the profile of our learners. We know there's an ROI as part of that. And we can't do it on our own. So as we look at all of these partnerships, you can see that in education, in the public and the private sector, that it is in partnership with each and every one of you. And we look forward to adding more logos there. So Louis will add the YMCA very soon, right? Yes, so an exciting partnership coming forward, a collective impact partnership with the YMCA. But you can see all of our partners and what that looks like. How do we provide education in the high school to 15,000 students? How do we engage employers to be able to do that? How do we ensure that we can provide services to families because of those 26%, roughly 14,000 students that are not only going to college for themselves, but for their children? The other key is that we know that we do well here, but I want to assure you, as Chairman Sarate mentioned, that we are best in class. That your community college is well recognized throughout the United States. And it's not only that we say that, but it's because of what others have said about the aspirations of our students and about the talents of our faculty and staff to be able to back them up. So those are just a few. The Baldrige Award, which we received in 2018 and went up to DC in 2019. And that is, I think that's, what they call, it's like the EGOT, right? It's like a gold medal. It's a Super Bowl championship, looking at Sunday, right? So it's a Super Bowl championship, but it is all of these awards assembled together. It is the United States and the President's Performance Excellence Award, not for community colleges, not for higher education, not for public sector, for any organization within the United States that was achieved. So we are the only community college district to have received that distinction in the history of the Baldrige Award since the beginning in the Reagan administration. I want to emphasize one other award, which is the Aspen Prize. How many of you have heard about U.S. News and World Report and how they rate universities? Okay. Well, the Aspen Prize studied that and said, we want to do something better. And so they worked with private foundations, and they looked at community colleges, all 1,100, and they wanted to recognize those that serve diverse populations throughout the United States. And they do this long juried process. So that started in 2011. In 2019, 4 of the 5 colleges were recognized in the top 10%. And then I'm going to ask Dr. Gatza to stand, because Palo Alto College was recognized as the #2 community college within the United States. In 2021, very similar, and all of our community colleges being in the top 10%. And Dr. Gonzalez de Jesus, if you'll stand, because San Antonio College was given the #1 designation within the United States of America. So our hopes and aspirations are now, and with Dr. Bosley, because Northwest Vista is going through each and every one. Dr. Bosley, can you stand? Because we hope to recognize them very soon. So as I mentioned, we're best in class, which I think is really, really critical in looking at what we do. Who do we serve? What are we doing? How do we work in tandem with each one of you? And then look at all the progress that we've made in the last 5 years. Enrollment has actually grown. We only have 5 colleges, but it's like we added a 6th within the last 5 years. Net new growth of 11,000 students overall, which is one of the best, not only in the United States, but within the state of Texas. Look at the first time in college or college freshmen, record freshman class in the fall of 23, and that growth continues. High school dual enrollment, students like Gedden that started in dual credit and then now are Promise Scholars, and then time to degree. What does that mean? That means in the last 5 years, we have saved our students half a year. We've saved them a semester and a summer session in being able to cross the stage. And we know that time is the enemy of degree completion and being able to earn that ROI. So these are some of the other highlights of the last 5 years. The establishment of Alamo Promise in 2019 with the launch of the first class just in 25 high schools first. The Student Advocacy Network, which our Board of Trustees approved before the onset of COVID, that allowed us to provide pop-up markets for those that needed food assistance and allowed us to deliver $100 million in federal emergency aid to 50,000 students during a time of need in COVID. I'll mention Alamo Books, in which we partner with our students actually and jointly fund their instructional materials. For each and every course, this lowers the barrier because we're saving them for each college course $180 on average, and actually tens of millions of dollars overall. One of the things that we know is we want to provide, and I know we'll talk with the commissioner about this, in a talent-strong Texas, and so we have the authority to have workforce-oriented baccalaureate degrees. So the board approved, and San Antonio College and our nursing faculty have implemented the launch of our first degree, which is a BSN. Then we've been able to increase our transfer through our transfer advising guides, and we have an exciting announcement in late March that is actually going to ensure that that continues to accelerate and we assist students in driving down. So we launched 2019 Alamo Promise, and now in 2023, I want to thank our board for support because we were able to now move that county-wide. So that record number of freshmen, those 14,000 students, did not arrive by chance. It is our enrollment coaches, our teams of staff being able to recruit students, but it's also providing a no-cost, high-quality undergraduate experience because Bexar County wide, Alamo Promise is now Bexar County wide, serving an eligible population of 20,000 graduating high school seniors. The other part is our students not only need new programs, but they also need upgraded and new facilities. And as part of that, the board brought a bond issue in 2017 to the voters that passed by 2-1, and that has launched either new or enhanced facilities, about 23 new facilities, $450 million. With maintenance tax notes, that's going to take the total investment to about 700 million, sorry. I want to tell you about some other things. I mentioned Promise earlier. What I want to really emphasize is our future focus. I want to mention in particular about workforce capacity. Our goal right now, and Commissioner, we're right behind Collin County in the number of workforce students. So we want to be able to move from 8 to 15,000 students, but we need to be able to create those program options, and you can see it right there. What we have done, I want to thank the college presidents working with my colleagues at Access through our vice chancellors to be able to provide more high-wage, high-demand programs. So 30 new programs that create an opportunity through short-term certificates, whether in our jargon we call them level 1, a series of courses, level 2, going all the way to Associate of Applied Science. And those 13 you see there are not only certificates, they're like the BSN, they're baccalaureate-oriented workforce degrees. So what is the key and why do we want to do that? Because we know that's even beyond the $9,400 ROI. If they're going into healthcare, not only nursing, but allied health and health professions, that is $53,000. If they're going into IT with certifications and degrees, the same. If they're looking at manufacturing or logistics, it's over $50,000. So we like to develop pilots and proof of concept at Alamo. We look at what we've done well, how we've implemented it, and then we bring it to scale across all sectors. Our goal over the next few years, as you can see there in that trajectory going to 2028, is to meet the demand. Texas right now has a demand of 50,000 nurses, which we know are high wage, benefited, and always in need. Thank you, Jimena, for being here as a partner with Methodist Healthcare Systems. Exciting partnership that we've facilitated and formed with them. Our goal is to be able to add 4,000 nurses over the next 5 years and make a dent in that 50,000 as part of that. As we begin with nursing, then we want to continue that into IT. We know that IT specifically within Texas is not only high wage, but high demand. So our future focus is, once again, remember all those corporate icons and public sector icons, is we can't do it alone. We need to be able to partner with each and every one of you to take that forward. Our future focus and things that we've hardwired, we heard directly from employers, early engagement with greater SATX, national engagement from a partner, to be able to look at what are the skills, essential skills that your employees need on the job, and created this skills bundle package to be able to do that. I know we have exciting partnerships with those of you in the audience and look forward to engaging more. And then the other is, we know we're big and complex, so we're bringing account executives by sector to you. One point of contact to be able to talk about the portfolio of offerings at any of the colleges or through our workforce development area. So I showed you the headlines at the start, that we're an emerging aspirational community, but there are a couple of challenges or proof points that we have. So imagine what we've done, and you saw what we've been able to achieve in 5 years. But imagine in the next 5 years, or the next 10 plus, if we could see different headlines. If we would be able to see these types of headlines. If we would have a workforce revolution, that San Antonio would be a top source of high demand talent. That we would be able to top the national charts in graduation rates, not only at the Alamo Colleges, but throughout our community. That we would achieve 70%, as those of us through a partnership signed on to. Or that we would not have a high rate of intergenerational poverty. That actually we would decrease, or perhaps rid that challenge within our community. So, in short, and I want to thank each of you for being here, we've been on a long journey, as Chairman Zarate mentioned. We've been able to do big things. We know because of the talents of our faculty and staff, the dreams of our 70,000 plus students, in partnership with each one of you, that we have achieved a moonshot with promise. But we have other things in the North Star that we would like to achieve. So I want to thank each and every one of you for being here for this presentation. And I know we're going to have a follow-up conversation with the commissioner. And my team would be remiss, and I would, if you want the deck. But for you private and public sector partners, we encourage you to complete the form so that we can follow up with you specifically to engage more of our students in partnership, or perhaps our faculty and staff. Thank you each for being here this afternoon.
I love the headlines. Oh, yes, absolutely. I hope you're just as inspired as I am, because I want those headlines tomorrow, not even 5 years from now. Those headlines are really fantastic, and I really appreciate Dr. Flores level setting for us what the headlines do say today about the state of Texas as one of the largest economies in the world, not just across the nation. And for us, as we are just hyper-focused on the importance of recruiting good jobs to San Antonio and keeping the great jobs we have represented here through so many of our industry members, the number one way to do that is through sustainable, skilled talent. It doesn't come down to the incentives or abatements that we could throw at companies. What they're really looking for is that skilled talent, and we are very, very optimistic about the fact that our education partners across K-12 space and all of the efforts that have been done in the post-secondary space, also with our workforce partners and entities, that we can get there and that we can really make shared prosperity a reality for our community. So thank you, Dr. Flores, for that inspiring presentation. We're going to take a short break and before we kick off our fireside chat. So please enjoy your lunch, and we will resume our program shortly. Thank you.
make up new credentials and claim that we're making progress. So we put a marker down that we only want to count credentials that are what we call credentials of value. Credentials of value in our Texas economy. And they're credentials of value because Texas employers value them. And then finally, we brought the research, development, and innovation mission into our plan. Our previous plan didn't have anything on research and development. That plan ended up being really important for guiding our work on community college finance, guiding our work with the universities on research and development, and also guiding our work on student financial aid. So I think that was an important precursor to the work that came later, where in this last legislative session, you saw the legislature really behind this vision for building a talent-strong Texas, and we had a historic legislative session for higher education.
So I think as part of that, you mentioned both, you were being generous in saying that plan had been there for a few years, but so Talent Strong Texas in particular, and then historic legislation for us, and we see the net new investment we're able to make in our students. Can you tell the audience a little bit more about House Bill 8 and the impact that it has had on the community colleges, and through your leadership as well as partnership? And so I do want to give the commissioner a lot of credit for his work and what he did, making this part of a really frenetic session, right, and putting it at the top. And I didn't know this until Priscilla mentioned it to me, but really, if you have a low-numbered bill, that is a high priority of state leaders. But so House Bill 8, right? So can you tell us a little bit about
So we did a lot of work in the interim. So there was actually a bill in the previous legislative session that set up a state commission, and the governor gave us some resources for that commission. Also, our Texas Philanthropies and National Philanthropies got behind that work. And so my team and I supported that commission's work. We had legislators, we had community college leaders, we had members of the public on the commission. We took the deepest dive any state has taken into these issues around community college finance. And so we examined who's participating in community colleges, what kind of results are we getting, how is that changing, and we also looked at the cost drivers. And there were a lot of important contributions that came out of that work that helped shape this new finance system. The other thing that happened, though, is that the community college leaders across the state, of course, you and your colleagues, Chancellor, really came together and supported the work of the commission. And as the recommendations came together, we were able to work closely with community college leaders across the state and other stakeholders to develop a bold new vision for higher education that frankly went a lot farther than I think a lot of the policymakers might have expected. And so that was only possible because we worked together in partnership. We listened to the different concerns and considerations from the smaller rural colleges, from the fast-growing urban colleges. We took all of that input, and it all impacted the recommendations. What we came back with essentially was a recommendation to completely overhaul the whole system, to not just tinker around the margins, but convert our system from where we'd historically just funded community colleges on the basis of seat time. How many students did you have enrolled in different types of courses? To now, 95% of the state's funding for community colleges is driven through a new outcomes-based formula for production of credentials of value, with more if they're in high-demand fields, for students transferring, or for students taking 15 hours of dual credit or dual enrollment courses that apply to either academic or workforce credentials. We weighted those outcomes because we recognize if you have a student who is a low-income student, if you have a student who was not college ready when they were enrolled, or we actually found the highest cost drivers being if you have an adult learner who's an adult who's been out of school for a while, they're going to need additional support to be able to stay on track and be able to complete that credential. And those adjustments are recognized and included in the new formula. We also, for the smaller and rural colleges, we stabilized their funding with that other 5% of funding to make sure that all of our colleges are going to have a baseline of funding to be able to support their instruction and operations. So this was really a historic shift in how we fund our community colleges. The other piece that is especially going to be felt this next fiscal year is the legislature agreed to make the system dynamic. So we had funded community colleges based on the historical data. All the colleges knew how much state funding they were going to get for the next 2 years. And so the formulas we had only sort of divided up the pie, more or less, depending primarily on how many courses and what types colleges taught. That meant that all the colleges were in competition with each other. Right. So as you have a college that's fast growing, they get more of the pie. A college that their enrollments are stable, they may get less funding. Now that's gone in the new House Bill 8 finance system. The colleges are just in competition with themselves.
Right.
And so the idea is to have a dynamic system where there's particular dollar amounts attached to those outcomes. And if the colleges outperform the projections, that means that's additional funding to the college, regardless of what everybody else does. And we sat down with the policymakers, with Lieutenant Governor, the Speaker, the Governor, the key members of the legislature, and we talked about how that could mean that we might need to ask for additional money. We might need a supplemental appropriation to fully fund the outcomes-based formula. And they all agreed that this was a critical investment in the future of Texas. So at the end of the day, the overall, if you count student financial aid and the funding, new funding to colleges, it was about a 30% increase in our funding, state funding for community colleges.
So this is really a moonshot in itself. It is historic, the statewide investment that is being made in Texas community colleges, and thanks to the leadership and partnership of the commissioner, to bring it home to San Antonio for us, and we are the second largest, but just looking overall at the list, received the highest amount of overall funds. Under the previous legislation, and this is fairly simplistic, there's more to tease out, but we would have just received net new, the previous, which was enrollment and class-driven, about maybe $5 million, right? Under the new historic legislation, we actually received $25 million, which gave us a net new $20 million to reinvest back in our students. And so it's historic in that it's not zero-sum. We're not competing against 49 other community colleges. It's additive, and it's I think important because it's supporting us for who we serve and how well they do. And I think folks may take a step back from something that's performance-based, but thanks to the success that we've had over many years at Alamo Colleges, I think we kind of said, bring it on, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, and there's another piece I think it would be good to emphasize. I'm sorry that Senator Menendez had to leave because Senator Menendez and his colleagues, they got behind increased support for the students directly and student financial aid.
Yes.
And so the other historic investment was historic increases in student financial aid this session. And so for students at community colleges, state colleges, our TSTCs, this put the overall, we're serving about the same share of eligible students at the two-year institutions as we do for the universities. And what we were just talking about before we left, that puts us in striking distance, hopefully, for this session of getting to full funding for our need-based aid, which would be our number one request as we go into this next legislative session because of those historic investments. Not only did they put more money into student financial aid, they also let us increase the scope of who can benefit from that to include those short-term workforce programs. So the legislature really got behind the vision outlined in Building a Talent Strong Texas got behind our colleges, got behind our innovators, and also is getting behind our students to give them the resources to eliminate financial barriers and help us achieve that vision for building a talent strong Texas.
I think one of the nice things, I know in each of our sectors we have trade publications, right? So we see those on a regular basis. One of the things in higher ed we're beginning to see are layoffs, right? Not in Texas, but in other states throughout the United States, in which they are limiting services or closing academic or workforce programs in particular. That is not the case here in Texas in historic investments in community colleges in financial aid and support.
No, that's right. So we were up across every sector. I will say our fall enrollments year over year were up about 37,000 students. 25,000 of those were in our community colleges, particularly in workforce programs and also new financial aid for students in dual credit programs. Yes. Has enabled the colleges to enroll more students in academic and workforce programs while they're still in high school. And so those are critical investments in the future of Texas and also are getting a lot of national attention. So we've just at the agency, we've hosted delegations from a dozen other states who've sent teams, even as we're working on the rules right now to try to, folks are interested in and watching very closely what's happening in Texas.
I think that's wonderful. It sounds like it's just the perfect picture, right? So I think for each and every one of us, the leadership of the commissioner in Austin, support from individuals like Senator Menendez, right? All of our colleagues, the business sector, in creating a talent strong Texas. Is there anything we should be mindful of as we go forward, either as practitioners in education, as citizens within the state, as in future years?
Yeah. So number one, I would say, even as Commissioner of Higher Education, this isn't really just about higher education, right? This is about jobs and economic opportunities. It's about what kind of Texas we want to live in, what kind of communities we want to live in. So again, what's critical to this work isn't just to have more people earning credentials. It's to make sure that those credentials are going to equip people to take advantage of the new jobs being created, of the opportunities that are there in our communities. And we have so much more work to do. So we have nearly 4 million Texans who have some college and no credential. We have more than 2 million Texans who don't have high school diplomas or equivalencies. So as an aside, I have to say, so another provision of House Bill 8 that sort of flew below the radar screen, we're actually creating a new high school diploma in Texas that's going to be awarded by community colleges. And so I called up Mike Flores and I said,
I thought I was in trouble.
I need 5 colleges. I need colleges that could be the leaders in developing and deploying this new high school diploma. And before I'd finished my pitch, Mike had already said we're in. So I deeply appreciate the partnership with the Alamo Colleges in designing. This is an innovative, competency-based high school diploma to help those adults who are enrolled in your workforce programs be able to unlock their potential and advance their careers. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think what's most critical, you can see why we enjoy partnering with the Commissioner and the leadership that he's provided, and it has actually been successive investments in the last 2 sessions, I would say in particular, right? In higher education, in particular, the most recent through House Bill 8 for the 50 community colleges, and we do all work together to ensure we serve our communities. So we're fortunate for your leadership. Please call us anytime that we can be of service, right? We are actually—
I'm going to remind you said that.
We're looking forward to being able to provide that opportunity. A fifth of San Antonians and folks in our region do not have a high school equivalency or diploma. So we definitely see the need for providing that. And the other part is just the pride we have as San Antonians, right? I know you came down from Austin, but we have a lot of pride in our community. We know that we're a growing community and an aspirational community, and with your continued partnership, we know we can do even better and more. Let's thank the Commissioner for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you.
I think we have Okay, we have time for some questions.
Commissioner, when you think of best practices for large employers who are committed to the ongoing education and credentialing of their staff, who do you think of, and what would you like to see more of in the business community in San Antonio?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I have the opportunity to talk to various business leaders, CEOs, folks who are vice presidents over their human capital and talent management across the state. What they're telling me now, actually three things I'm hearing from them. One is they're saying their workforce needs are changing faster than they ever anticipated, and in some cases, they're just trying to keep up. They're not sure exactly what their workforce needs are going to look like 6 months from now, especially because of how fast artificial intelligence is advancing. So there are things that they thought it would take years to automate that they're now able to automate in a matter of months. And so that's disrupting the way they think about their human capital. The other thing that I hear from employers is they'll say that in the specialized skills that they need, the more technical skills, they're generally pretty happy with the graduates they get. The problem is there's not enough of them. As the Chancellor mentioned, so if you look at nursing, if you look at computer scientists, folks who work in cybersecurity, we have thousands of job openings that we can't fill. We have about the same number of jobs open in Texas as we have Texans who are looking for work. So 600,000 or 700,000 positions open in Texas right now. The problem is the folks who are looking for work don't generally have the skills that employers need, especially those specialized skills. The last thing I'm hearing from employers quite a bit is that they're worried that our typical college graduate doesn't have enough of the kind of employability skills, soft skills, there's a little more ramp up to be able to work in industry than they would hope. And so that's that last one in particular is one we need to tackle, especially through so traditionally, like, employers like to complain about higher ed, and higher ed likes to complain about K-12. And in higher ed, we always say we'd do better if K-12 would send us better students and stuff like that. But that doesn't make a lot of progress. I mean, what we need to do right now, and the best examples are where you have employers at the table in the design of programs, and especially the design of these new programs on the frontiers. The other thing that we need to dramatically escalate is we need more work-based learning opportunities for students. We need more internships. The best way to make sure that somebody's got the skills that they need is to give them the opportunity to be embedded in a professional environment before they even complete that opportunity. So I hope all the employers in the room were scanning that QR code there, because we need many more opportunities for students to be able to get into the workplace while they're completing their programs.
Hello. First of all, thank you, Commissioner, for coming, and appreciate you helping support our Moonshot. This is something that it matters so much to our city. I'm curious to know, you've mentioned obviously the help that you've given for this wonderful start in the high school program. What is the next Moonshot you're working on?
Well, okay, so here are the things that I've been talking a lot with policymakers about, and I have to say, I think one of the reasons we've been able to make so much progress over these last couple of sessions in Texas is we do have state leaders and legislators like Senator Menendez that when I sit down with them, we're not just talking about the next session, we're talking about, well, what kind of investments do they need to make so 30 and 40 years from now, Texas is going to be competitive. So the areas that we're talking about that I would flag right now as needing strategic investment, Number one, I think it's within our grasp to be able to do a better job with removing financial barriers for students and student financial aid to make that more predictable for students about what the costs are going to be. That continues to be a major barrier for too many students that keeps them from participating or slows down their time to credential. So we've got to address those barriers for students. We, on the finance side, we've made all this progress on community college finance. We need to make sure that we don't take our foot off the gas pedal and they fully fund the outcomes-based formula. We also need to get behind our universities and our health-related institutions similarly, so that we're going to have the higher education infrastructure we need to be able to be competitive. There are some particular places we need to make targeted investments also in high-demand workforce. Our healthcare workforce, I mentioned, is that's an area of critical need. Also, our high-tech workforce, where we need to make targeted strategic investments so that we can especially accelerate what we're doing in those areas.
Can I have a follow-up?
Sure.
Would you consider the financial aid? Would you consider the financial aid formula, Moonshot, to be also looking at financial aid to support child care for students who especially are returning to education and don't have the ability, because that is a big financial burden as well?
So about child care for students. So this is one of the reasons, like when we looked into what are the barriers, and so we surveyed the Texans who have some college and no credential and looked at what the barriers were. And especially for adults, one of the major cost drivers is, of course, childcare. So even if I know I might need to advance, then how am I going to take advantage of that? This is an area that the legislature has asked us to look into how to support parenting students, even how to collect data to understand how to size that problem. So that is something that we're looking at. I don't know offhand if financial aid versus more direct support for the institutions would be a better strategy, but that's something that we're definitely going to be looking at in partnership with the institutions.
I was going to say, I think that's one of our, an ongoing challenge and consideration that we all want to address in earnest. Three of our colleges have child care centers now, and then Northeast Lakeview College with Dr. Veronica Garcia is in partnership with the Bezos Academy. But we have, we have 13,000 parenting students, meaning students with children. So the scale of the 4 centers does not even put a dent in what that looks like. So definitely a worthwhile, not only conversation, but a need to address for parenting students. And then we have our final question, Ashley.
Good afternoon. My name is Ashley Harris with PNC Bank. Thank you so much for being here today, Commissioner.
Thank you.
As a parent,
you have my money also, so thank you for your
doubly thank you. As a parent of a Alamo College student and a ready-to-work student, thank you so very much for everything you do. Commissioner, my question is: you mentioned a credential of value. Can you expand upon what you mean by that?
Yeah, great. Thank you for that question. So, and I glossed that over, I think, in the presentation. That's an important difference between what we're doing in Texas and what any other state is doing. So we put this marker down that said, again, we don't just want to look at educational attainment as folks earning credentials. For example, we're really proud of the growth in early college high schools, but the majority of the students who complete degrees in early college high schools earn multidisciplinary degrees. They earn associate's degrees in general studies or multidisciplinary studies, sort of associate's degrees in college. And then the students are surprised that a lot of those credits don't apply to specific degree programs. So we've done a lot of work with the colleges on new direct transfer pathways to help address that issue. On the general issue of credentials value, essentially here's what we do. We have incredibly rich data in Texas, and so we have committed to and are working to make that data much more readily accessible, available for the institutions and also for the public, including data about what the earnings experience has been of graduates. So we look into that data and we say, well, what is a typical Texan who only has a high school diploma? What do their earnings look like? And then whatever the credential is in question, We say, well, what do the wage experiences look like of the folks who have that credential? We net out the costs, and we even account for the opportunity costs, the time that folks spend earning the credential. And then we just ask the question, are you better off? Are you better off for earning that credential? Are you going to break even within, say, 10 years if you make the investment to earn that credential? And if the answer is no, we don't want to count it. So that's an important condition that we've put on our goals, and also it's built into the fabric of our community college finance system. Now, along with that, we're providing data to all of our institutions. So Alamo Colleges has a lot more robust ability to look at and work with data. But most of our colleges are small. Most don't have that ability. And so we're actually providing data to them about what the wage experiences are of their graduates, and trying to help inform their decisions about how to strengthen their programs. Because we want to make sure that it's not just that, this isn't just about higher education. This isn't just about students earning credentials. It's about students being equipped to do the next thing. Not because we say they're equipped to do the next thing, we look, right? Because we're working with the employers to understand what their needs are, and we look into the data to make sure that students are going to be equipped.
All right, well, thank you. Let's give the commissioner a big round of applause.
Thank you again, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that thought-provoking conversation. It's great to see the momentum that's happening at all levels, certainly at the state level with legislation that is really supporting a lot of what we know needs to happen locally, or what we have been really intentional about supporting locally. And so that's really key to this Moonshot. I would add key takeaways from today is certainly industry engagement, and I'm really happy to see so many of our industry partners here. There's been a lot of great conversation around meaningful work-based learning opportunities, employers informing curriculum, employers also informing what are those marketable professional skills, how can higher ed institutions or K-12 partners also help reduce that workforce productivity from their graduates when they become your future employees in those target areas. And I think that's where certainly the credentials of value, we want to make sure that our youth in San Antonio are graduating into employability, and employability into jobs that are going to provide them shared prosperity for their families. We all want better for our community, and I go away very, very hopeful that those headlines are going to change in less than 5 years, Dr. Flores, and in less than 5 years, Dr. Keller. So help me, and please QR code back up there, and let's make sure everybody signs up if they haven't already to become a partner to the great work that Alamo Colleges is doing with our youth and our adult learners across the city of San Antonio. Thank you so much for spending your lunch with us today.